With somebody like Marise, you achieve something really good and it fires you for more.
I was wanting to be one of the best in the world, and my coach, he said to me, "The gold's yours." I was born in Christchurch in the year 1935. And I was always a very talented child, I suppose, because I was always very energetic, and I used to win all the races and everything in those days. But I remember I was 11 years old and this girl beat me. I just cried. My mother and father came over individually and asked me what on earth was the matter with me. And I said, well, I didn't win. Then my father said to me, "You have to learn that life isn't always winning." The first club I joined was Crichton Cobbers. That particular year, I won my first Canterbury Championship in the 220 yards. And then I sort of went the next year and I really didn't do any training or anything properly, and so I didn't win. And I thought, oh, this isn't what I like. I didn't like the losing and didn't like the feeling that I wasn't really making any progress. On the field, there was this man. And I'd seen this man before and been introduced to him as a coach from overseas. And when I went down to Ensel's Road and I saw him, I knew that this was the man. I just knew instantly that this was the man that was going to help me. And I said, "Would you coach me, please?" And a big smile broke out on his face and he put out his hand and we shook hands.
Marise and I were both coached by Waldemar Breedis. I think he knew very early in the piece if Marise would follow him, he would get her to the top.
When I came under Waldy, then there was a regime here.
The training was quite tough, even for those days. He was tougher on the ones that he thought would do the best.
But it was always I had everything wrong. There was nothing right that I seemed to do. And it was always him growling and do this and do that. It was do this, do that. I wasn't used to it. I was sort of like a little mouse, I suppose. But that was good for Waldy. He got somebody, here was somebody that he was going to be able to mould. The first season with Waldy, I progressed. It was marvellous. I progressed. It took another 2 seasons, but each time I was improving rapidly, and then I became #1 sprinter in Canterbury. In those days, you could only run 100 and 200 because it was banned for women to run any further. But Waldy already knew what I was talented at, and so he fought to get the longer distances in New Zealand. The 400 was allowed to be run occasionally in New Zealand, so we went for it. I was going to be one of the best in the world in the 400, and I'd broke the world record. Then 800 came in. We could see that I was a middle distance runner here, so it meant I had to learn to run to be an 800-metre runner.
The 800 metres is a real gutsy kind of race, and I think it takes a lot of mental strength as well as physical strength to get through it. It's fast, like it's pretty much like a long sprint, but you do need to be able to have the endurance to keep going on that second lap. You get really heavy legs, especially in the last 200 metres, and you often see a lot of people vomit at the finish line.
I struggled and I thought I'd never be able to do this. And everything about it, I just thought I'd never going to make it. But I was determined.
Breedis said to me and to Marise, "Give me 4 years and I'll get you to the Olympics." Once Breedis had lit the fire, she could see an Olympic flame.
Waldy and I had the plan. Rome was to be my first Olympics because the next one I was going to win a gold medal. The first one was to allow me to get blooded in, be experienced, and I was to make the final. That was the aim, the final of the 800 in Rome.
In those days, there was no overseas competition.
So it meant that I had to run against a stopwatch, and that's exactly what I was doing. And so I qualified twice for Rome. But when it came to the selection, where they nominated you, and then they had a night where they selected the team and you had to listen on the radio, my name never came out. It was the only name that was left off. I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. Why wasn't I there, and why wouldn't they let me be there? It was cruel.
Breeders fought for her. We all did. I think it's possible that powers that be thought she might just go away.
Well, of course, that made me madder. They took away my dream. They took away that one thing. And so I thought, no, I wasn't going to retire. I wasn't going to let that dream go.
Marise became even more determined. She trained even harder. Her times improved. I think the breakthrough came when she was exposed to Dixie Willis. There was nobody in Australia except for Dixie Willis that could get anywhere near Marise.
She had beaten me twice. We had one more chance to have a race against her before Tokyo, because Tokyo was going to be my ultimate. It was a very wet day in Sydney Cricket Ground, and I knew it was going to be a hard race, but I knew I had to do it, and I was in good form. I thought, this time around, I know what I'm going to do. And so she took off and led, because she always liked to, and I kept in behind her, but I knew when I could take off. And she said to me afterwards that it was the hardest race she had run against me, and she felt that if it had been on hard ground, I would have taken her world record. Waldy was very pleased. I was selected for Tokyo, my big thrill at long last to get an Olympic dream. And he took my hand and he said to me, Marise, I've done everything I possibly can for you. He said, there's not one thing I could have altered or done more in the training. And he said, the gold's yours. I ran that race 60,000 times because I was so busy thinking New Zealand's expecting me to win, and I had never had that pressure before. There was 34 competitors in the event, and I was the only one who had never actually raced in a proper field except with Dixie Willis. And the first 100 metres it was just automatic. I was at the back with the two British girls, and they was determined to stay where I was. As we were just coming down that first back straight, the German girl came back and she gave this almighty arm jab. I felt myself falling, and I thought, to think I've come here, my dream, and I can't even run. Next thing, these two British girls, they grabbed my singlet and they pulled me up, and they balanced me and put me back onto that field. They said to me later, did you feel our hands pull you and push you on? I said, yes, I did. It was wonderful because it enabled me to stay in the race.
Racing experience is really important to have the best possible race and not be boxed in, not be knocked around by people's elbows, not have your stride cut short. She wouldn't be getting that in New Zealand.
And then we went right round, and I knew it was world record pace because I know tempo, because I had to always run on my own, and I knew it was going to be a world record. Got to the 300-metre mark to go, and the stadium on the back straight started to chant black, black, black. And that's what woke me out of the dream. And I thought, but black, that's me, you know, I just took off. Well, who would take off 3 wide from a 200-metre mark right round? I mean, you just don't do that in athletics.
Running wide on the bend is certainly not the ideal because you are running further. It's obviously being in lane 1's a lot shorter than running in lane 2 or lane 3.
The minute I took off, and I didn't know, Ann Packer went with me. That's what she was waiting for. They were waiting for me. They knew I was going to do something. I came right round and came up the straight, and I could see I was in second position, and I saw the French girl was from here to the wall, and I knew I never had anything more to get to her. I just knew everything was gone. But I thought, if I can hold this position, and as I was busy thinking this, Ann Packer went past me, and I could have cried. I thought, no, not Ann Packer. And I looked and I thought, I can't do anything. They're first and second, and there's nothing I can do now. I've just got to try and get salvage something out of this mess.
I mean, a bronze medal isn't a gold or a silver, but it is still a pinnacle of sporting achievement. There's not very many people that have done what that girl's done. But with somebody like Marise, you achieve something really good, and it fires you for more.
I decided that I would go on and I'd like to retire because I'd like to go out with a gold. So I thought I'd go through to Jamaica. In training, I'd overstrained an Achilles tendon, and while it hadn't quite gone, it was pretty bad. And we had the flag ceremony, and it had been raining. Some of the girls behind, one of them slipped, and she grabbed hold of me to save herself, but she pulled me down, and I fell on the very injured tendon, the Achilles tendon, and they found a masseuse, a Jamaican masseuse. This leg's no good, he said, you shouldn't be on this leg, it's not going to hold. And I just said to him, look, do the best you can, because after tonight, I'm not running any more in my life, I'm retiring. And he just said good luck to me, and he shook my hand. Did the first lap, no bother at all, and came round to the 600-metre run, and I just went right round the field, and I was coming up the straight, and I didn't know that I had at least 3 or 4 yards. And so then I thought to myself, no one's going to get me. I'm going to change my gear, and I've even got more energy here. I'm going to change and even go faster. When I changed the rhythm and came back down, the leg that was going to take the pressure to start off was the bad one. Couldn't do it, it just went. So I just went down. The whole stadium went silent. Because, I mean, I was the clear winner, you know. The whole stadium went quiet. Yes, so that was the end of my career. When we went to leave Jamaica, to be quite honest, I wanted the plane to go down in the ocean. I never wanted to come home. I knew how disappointed I was going to make my parents and my coach and the people that had followed me. It was just, that was bitter. And I've never, ever really got over that. Now, who's that bearded man?
Ma'am?
How are they?
How are you?
How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. You take care.
You're looking so good at 85. I just said that.
I'm 86.
Are you really?
Yeah, I was 86 in December. Run up.
Yeah, right. You probably could.
I could, yeah. I could too.
Marise had a mission, and she actually accomplished it. There was bad hiccups on the way, but it's like any human life. It's how you pick yourself up that actually matters.
No matter what I did, I pleased my father and mother, you know, because children do. They don't have to say anything, but I just know from their beautiful smiles and their look of love that they were thrilled. And I knew with Waldy, he was a hard man to please. And I could only please him by breaking records. And I could only please him by winning medals. And that is the saddest thing, that I couldn't have won the gold for him. For me, I would have loved the gold for Waldy. But he said to me, "You've made your mark though, girl, and they can't take that away from you."